When people think of federal law enforcement, the FBI is usually the first name that pops up. It handles the country's biggest and most complex cases, from terrorism to cybercrime. But the FBI is just one piece of the system. So let's start breaking down every federal law enforcement agency, starting with the DEA. The DEA is the agency that hunts down drug traffickers and shuts their operations down for good. Their agents go after the biggest drug networks both inside the US and overseas, tracking their money, taking their leaders off the streets, and breaking apart the supply chains that keep these groups running. If there's a major cartel or a huge drug operation causing damage, the DEA is the tip of the spear. The ATF is the agency that tracks down illegal gun-running groups, investigates bombings, and uncovers arson cases where someone sets fire for financial gain. They also deal with another huge area most people don't think about: illegal alcohol and tobacco operations, which cost the government billions every year. The ATF also oversee the legal side of firearms in America. They license gun dealers, inspect those dealers for compliance, and run the National Tracing Center. And since federal law bans a national gun registry, the ATF has to work through millions of records by hand to find where a crime gun came from. The U.S. Marshal Service is one of the oldest law enforcement agencies in America, and they've been around since 1789. Their biggest job is tracking down people who don't want to be found. If a dangerous federal fugitive is on the run, the marshals are the ones leading the hunt, working with teams across the country to bring them in. But that's only one part of what they do. They also make sure the entire federal court system stays safe. They guard federal judges, protect courthouses, and move federal prisoners from place to place so trials can happen smoothly. And they run one of the most secretive programs in the world, the Witness Security Program. This is the famous witness protection setup where key witnesses get new identities and a fresh start so they can safely testify against violent criminals. Now, the Secret Service is one of those agencies everyone thinks they know, but there's way more to them than dark suits and earpieces. Yes, they're the people who protect the president, the vice president, visiting world leaders, and other top officials. The Secret Service actually started as a financial crime agency back in 1865. Counterfeit money was such a massive problem that the government created the Secret Service just to stop fake currency from wrecking the economy. And even today, that mission is still a core part of what they do. Their protective role only became full-time in 1901, after President McKinley was assassinated, and it has grown ever since. ICE is one of the most talked about agencies and is responsible for enforcing immigration and customs laws inside the United States, not at the border. The agency is split into two major branches. The first is Homeland Security Investigations, often called HSI. These are the investigators who go after big criminal networks, groups involved in human trafficking, drug smuggling, weapons smuggling, and even large-scale financial crimes. The second branch is Enforcement and Removal Operations, or ERO. These are the officers who locate, arrest, and remove non-citizens who are in violation of U.S. immigration laws. Together, these two sides make ICE a major player in national security, criminal investigations, and immigration enforcement across the entire country. If ICE handles the inside, CBP guards the borders. These are the uniformed officers you see at airports, seaports, and land crossings. The people who check passports, inspect cargo, and make sure nothing dangerous or illegal enters the country. They're trained to spot fake documents, hidden drugs, illegal weapons, and anything else that shouldn't make it past the border. They're also responsible for stopping people who aren't allowed to enter, whether for security reasons or immigration violations. Then there's the U.S. Border Patrol, one of the biggest parts of CBP. Unlike the officers at official crossings, Border Patrol agents work in deserts, forests, mountains, sometimes on foot, sometimes on horseback, sometimes with drones or helicopters to stop illegal crossings and catch smugglers moving people or contraband into the country. IRS-CI. While most people think of the IRS as just sending letters about taxes, IRS criminal investigation agents are federal law enforcement officers. They hunt down people who break the law on a massive financial scale. These agents are experts at following the money. They dig into tax evasion, money laundering, and complicated fraud schemes that can span across states or even countries. If there's a paper trail leading to a criminal, IRS CI agents are trained to find it. Their skills are so legendary that they were the ones who built the case that finally brought down Al Capone. U.S. Postal Inspection Service, or USPIS, is one of the oldest federal law enforcement agencies in the country. If a crime involves the mail, from fraud and identity theft to shipping illegal drugs or even attacks on postal workers, USPIS agents are on it. These postal inspectors make sure the mail system stays safe and trustworthy, from the moment a letter leaves the post office to when it lands at your doorstep. They're a quiet but powerful force, keeping one of America's oldest and most important services running smoothly. Diplomatic Security Service, or DSS, is the law enforcement and security team of the U.S. Department of State, protecting U.S. embassies and diplomats in more than 170 countries. At home, they safeguard the Secretary of State and visiting foreign leaders. On top of that, DSS agents investigate passport and visa fraud, making them a key part of America's national security, not just in the U.S., but all around the world. Federal Air Marshal Service, or FAMS. These officers are armed, undercover, and fly in simple clothes on commercial flights all over the world. Their mission is clear: spot and stop any threats against U.S. aviation. As the first line of defense against in-flight attacks, air marshals are highly trained in close-quarters combat and sharpshooting, ready to act in the tight, high-pressure environment of an airplane cabin. The Federal Protective Service, or FPS, is the team that keeps America's federal buildings safe. While the U.S. Marshals focus on courthouses, FPS officers protect thousands of other government buildings across the country. They make sure federal employees and visitors stay safe, check buildings for security risks, and respond to threats whenever they appear. The U.S. Capitol Police has one of the most important jobs in the country: keeping Congress safe. Their officers protect members of Congress, the Capitol building, and the surrounding grounds, making sure lawmakers can do their jobs without fear. They stand as the front line for the legislative branch, guarding not just a building, but the very process of government itself, ensuring democracy continues to function smoothly and securely. NCIS might be famous from TV, but it's a real civilian-led federal agency with a serious mission. Their agents track down major crimes and protect against terrorism and espionage for the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps. Operating all over the world, both on ships and on land, NCIS tackles everything from murder and big-time fraud to cyber attacks and threats to naval aircraft, keeping America's maritime forces safe and secure. Army CID is the Army's go-to team for serious crime investigations. These federal agents handle all major felony cases that affect the U.S. Army, making sure justice is served wherever soldiers are stationed around the world. From investigating deaths and sexual assaults to tracking down big fraud schemes and cybercrimes, CID agents keep the Army accountable and protect both the troops and the integrity of the service. Air Force OSI is the Air Force and Space Force's elite investigative force. These special agents don't just solve crimes, they hunt down threats to personnel, protect cutting-edge technology, and dig into cyber attacks and major fraud schemes. Whether it's safeguarding multi-billion-dollar contracts or neutralizing spies, OSI keeps the air and space forces safe and mission-ready across the globe. DCIS is the Department of Defense's watchdog on steroids. They hunt down waste, fraud, and corruption within the massive DoD system. From uncovering multi-million-dollar procurement scams to stopping the illegal export of sensitive military tech, DCIS keeps the DoD honest, protects taxpayers, and shields national security from inside threats. Park police are the guardians of America's most iconic landmarks. Part of the National Park Service, they patrol famous national parks and monuments in big cities like Washington, D.C., New York, and San Francisco. From keeping the National Mall safe to protecting the Statue of Liberty, these officers make sure both visitors and historic sites stay secure every day. NPS Rangers are the protectors of America's wild and scenic treasures. Unlike the park police, they serve as the main law enforcement in over 400 national park units, often being the only officers for miles. From patrolling trails and helping lost tigers to investigating crimes and conducting daring search and rescue missions. Fish and Wildlife Service agents are the nation's wildlife detectives. They track down and stop criminals who exploit animals, focusing on major wildlife trafficking. From illegal ivory and rhino horns to exotic birds and reptiles, these agents work tirelessly to dismantle smuggling rings and protect endangered species, keeping the planet's natural treasures safe for future generations. Forest Service officers are the law enforcers of America's 193 million acres of national forests. They patrol these vast lands, investigating crimes like timber theft, damage to archaeological sites, wildfire arson, and illegal drug cultivation. Their work keeps the forest safe, protecting both the environment and the people who enjoy these public lands. BLM, the Bureau of Land Management's law enforcement rangers and special agents, look after more land than any other federal agency. Over 245 million acres, mostly across the wide open landscapes of the American West. They go after people stealing oil, gas, or other natural resources, track down archaeological looters, deal with illegal dumping, and investigate anyone trying to damage protected land. On top of that, they provide everyday police services and respond to emergencies in areas so remote that there might not be another officer for miles. They're basically the guardians of some of the wildest, toughest, and most beautiful places in the country. BIA, the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Their job is different from any other federal agency because they operate within tribal lands where laws and jurisdiction work very differently from the rest of the United States. BIA officers either provide full police services or work alongside tribal law enforcement to investigate and prosecute both federal crimes and tribal offenses. They deal with some of the toughest public safety challenges out there: violent crime, drug trafficking, missing persons cases, and more, all while respecting the sovereignty of tribal nations. NOAA, Office of Law Enforcement, is basically the guardian of America's oceans. Their job is to make sure everything within the U.S. exclusive economic zone, stretching 200 nautical miles off the coast, stays healthy, legal, and sustainable. Their officers and special agents focus on protecting marine life, especially endangered species and marine mammals. They crack down on illegal fishing, stop harmful practices, and enforce the rules that keep our oceans from being overworked or exploited. In simple terms, if it affects the ocean's wildlife or resources, NOAA is the team making sure the rules are followed and the sea stays alive for future generations. The EPA's Criminal Investigation Division works like the environmental version of a detective agency. But instead of chasing bank robbers or drug traffickers, they're after people and companies who break environmental laws in serious, intentional ways. These special agents are federal officers, and their cases often involve major threats to public health. They investigate crimes like dumping toxic waste into rivers, releasing harmful chemicals into the air, or running illegal operations that put entire communities at risk. They also take on large-scale fraud schemes involving environmental programs. When someone knowingly cuts corners and damages the environment just to save money, EPA CID is the team that steps in. Now, which of these agencies do you think needs more resources or maybe a smaller role given today's security challenges? Share your thoughts in the comments.